Welcome back to the Voices of Women Summit, where in honor of International Women's Day 2023, we are raising the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. Your host for this session is Tracy Root. Tracy is the founder of the Gather community. She has another amazing guest coming right up. Take it away, Tracy.
Thank you so much. I am so excited for this session. I am Tracy. I'm here in Santa Cruz, California, and I'm here today with the amazing, beautiful, stylish, and fabulous Claire Jones. Just look at you. I'm so excited to meet you. You're already grabbing my attention. Claire is here to talk about her experience. Her talk is titled A 50% Chance of Paralysis. I'm really, really excited to hear about your story and everything that you have experienced and accomplished. And as I mentioned earlier, congratulations on being here on the summit. Super excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and read your bio so people get a little bit of your background story. And then I know you have some slides that you want to share for people to see. But let's start off with a little bit of background. In 1 week, in March 2022, 1 year ago, days after launching her business, Sista Creatives Rising with her daughter, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher it, Amaranthia.
Yes.
I did it. With her daughter, Amaranthia, Claire lost her mobility by the hour, enduring emergency surgery to remove a diffuse, large B-cell lymphoma from her spine. She let go of all delusions and illusions about her health. Claire is now within the 1% category to walk again after such surgery. Now in remission, cheers, cheers, cheers. Now in remission, Claire redetermined to help marginalized women gain inner strength by accessing their artistic side. A Buddhist and Francis Perkins scholar, Claire's journey to scholarship began during her childhood in Barbados, when she sought relief from the chaos of living under domestic violence. Claire uses her creative works and writings to encourage women trauma survivors to utilize art for self-improvement. In the 1990s, standing at the door of no return in Senegal, where enslaved people saw their homeland, she reaffirmed her purpose to overcome intergenerational trauma. So beautiful, so excited to hear your story and to get some elaboration on some of those things that have happened to you and for you as you've gone on your journey. So thrilled. I know that you have a couple of slides that you'd like to share with us. So why don't you go ahead and take care of that now?
Sure. It's slides of when I was in cancer treatment and last year, and then you see a picture of what I am today.
Fantastic. Can't wait.
So this was me last year.
Yeah.
I have a brace on. I couldn't look left, right, up, down. I could only look forward. And this is me today.
Styling.
Yeah. And that was
what
last
a transformation.
March. Yes. Thank you.
Congratulations. So great.
Yes. So the photo you saw of me in during cancer treatment was the brace held because it was on my spine. So I had in that brace for 8 weeks, and I couldn't look left, right, up, down. I could only look forward, and that was the metaphor for my life.
Nice.
Presence.
Yes. Yeah, yes. Right? You're just like, okay, I'm here. Yes. I'm not over there. I'm not over there. Can't look around.
Deal with everything right here. I had no choice. Yes.
Beautiful. And so from what you're saying, without being able to move your head, I imagine does that mean it was high up on your spine?
Yeah, it was like this and locked in around my waist.
Wow.
And I could only take it off when I got into bed.
Okay.
That was it. But the whole day, whatever I did, it couldn't come off and it was very difficult. to live like that for 8 weeks.
I would imagine. So you had the brace on for 8 weeks. Tell us a little bit. So, and obviously, as you mentioned in your bio, that it was a surprise. Like this wasn't, you didn't feel sick. You just all of a sudden got less and less mobile.
Well, I wouldn't say I didn't feel sick, you know.
Maybe in hindsight, especially.
Yes, I would say that the last few months, like going into the end of 2021, I was sleeping all the time. I was very tired, and my walking was slowing down. So there was
over months then. Okay.
Yes, but there were indications, but I was worried about so many things at the time. I was afraid because insurance and costs and all these things, can I do if I go to the doctor? Am I going to be able to pay for all this? So all these things kept running through my mind until it got to the point on that day where I woke up at 4:00. It started on the 18th of March, and I started to lose my mobility, and I got up to go to the bathroom and just, couldn't make it. My feet just gave out, and I dragged myself to the bathroom, and then I sat on the clothes toilet, and I was like, from 4:00 in the morning, what the heck is this? And I could feel the coldness coming. And I just sat there again, worried about, I live in New Hampshire. I'm a Black immigrant woman. Am I going to get the doctor that is going to understand me and the care that I would need? And I'm worried about all these things from 4 to 7 o'clock in the morning. And eventually I saw the sun coming up, and I got up off the covered toilet. I got off and I crashed to the ground. And that's when I realized I have to call my daughter. I have to go. And nothing else mattered at that time. I became present immediately. The ambulance came and they took me out. They couldn't get me out to the door. They had to lift me up. My blood pressure was going up, and they got me to the emergency room. And within hours, they told me I had this mass. They weren't sure if they could treat it there. And all this was happening. And I was like, I can't explain how I went through all that, because it was just so heavy.
Yeah. So I'm imagining, when something is happening that's unexpected like that, like it sounds like what was happening for you is all of the thoughts around, well, like this can't be happening because this is going to be too hard.
Yes.
How am I going to? Yeah.
I've been a homemaker for 23 years. COVID. I have a daughter who I've been taking care of. She's 23. I've been taking care of her with her invisible disabilities for the main caretaker. Through COVID, my husband and I, we were like, our relationship had been unstable. We talked about separating because of things weren't working anymore. And we were talking about that. And I was like, how is this all going to work? There's so many things that are crashing. And in December, I had learned that when I wasn't feeling, when things were beginning to slow down, I'd learned my mom had passed in Barbados, but I couldn't do anything because I was getting sick already.
Right.
And she died. So I was dealing with that. So lots of are all crashing.
All these obstacles. It's crazy. So many things all at once. It's almost like your body said, all right, we're going to just take care of this all at one time because it's taking too long.
Yes, it was just an accumulation of years and years of all the traumas and that I've gone through as a childhood domestic violence survivor. There are things that you live your life, and as a survivor, you live. I like to describe it as I lived under umbrella of self-sabotage, and my friends that accompanied me under this umbrella were desperation, resentment, victimhood, stress.
Yeah.
And I carried that with me because I had inherited these patterns of survival. And so the moment when I was on that hospital bed, I had to kick those toxic friends to the curb.
Yeah.
I say, you know what? You can't accompany me here now. Presence. The friends that I have to accompany me now, right now, are positivity, optimism, hope. I have to be present right now in my life, and I have no time for negativity.
Yes.
Because before I was self-sabotage and do all this thing, and I couldn't figure out how I would live a life that didn't deal with all these toxicities and dysfunctions. But cancer brought clarity immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. I had no choice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful because, that's the challenge of all of these crises that we have in our lives, is to get to that point. So you finally got there to where now you can say, okay, you're all behind me.
Yes.
Now. And, you might be close enough to me that I can still see you, but you don't live with me anymore.
Yeah. And I had to, my Buddhist practice came in strong.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been a Buddhist for over 30 something years. And I was inspired to join this practice because Tina Turner is a member, and I read her biography way back and about how she was able to get out of domestic violence. And this practice was what really helped her. And that inspired me over the years as a domestic violence survivor. And at that moment, I just knew that it was the one thing that I had relied on, that had seen me through no matter what. It had been there for me. So I utilized that. And I also utilized Louise Hay's self-healing. She talked about self-healing and self-affirmations. I had my headphones with me, and I had her audio in my ears all the time. And I also have a 5-step practice that I developed for myself, because in the early, when I was 52, they told me I had the marker for a rare blood cancer. So this wasn't the cancer that showed up. It was a different type of blood cancer. It was a lymphoma, but it was more treatable. So at that time when they told me about that I had the marker for myeloma, I kind of devised this practice that I call clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude. And what I do is when I have a crisis, like say, example, I was in this crisis. So in clarity, I would ask, how can I get clarity in this situation? I'd meditate on that. Bring me the awareness to help me feel every emotion, everything that I need to feel in this moment. Ground me in presence so that I can stand firm and be strong in this moment of need. And acceptance, help me to accept this moment and all that it brings, so that I can take all the lessons for it, whatever it's teaching me, help me to accept it. And gratitude, thank you for this moment, for the lessons that it's going to bring to me. Clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude. And I use that Louise Hay in my Buddhist practice and throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that really helped me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that you started with the clarity, but that awareness piece to feel everything that you're supposed to feel right now, because that's the part that people are afraid of. right? That's the scariest part, is the feelings, I think. I mean, obviously the physical part of it is scary, but the feelings and living in that and kind of sitting in the feelings is so hard. So to ask for it is really insightful, I think, on your part, because you do have to feel it to get through it.
Yeah, and good and bad, you know.
Yeah.
And I just was very conscious of my thoughts. Louise Hay, with her affirmations, helped me to clear my mind every second. And no matter what was coming, I had tests upon tests upon tests. The emergency surgery, I remember, I had never been in surgery before. I'd had my daughter. That was the only time I'd ever been in a hospital setting, really. And so this was a shock to my system. And just remembering entering the surgery, and my doctor, he came up to me, he said, "We are going to take care of you. Everything's going to be okay." And I had the most wonderful doctors. Remember when I was sitting on that covered toilet seat, I was worrying
Well,
about
that was going to be my next question, is how did the care that you were so concerned about, how did that show up?
Amazing. I had the most amazing surgeon team. They told me, I went into the surgery and they said, "We're going to take care of you." I was in there for about 5 hours. And then I came back. Before I went in, I said, "You know what? I've done everything. I've taken care of my life the best that I could. If I don't come back from this, I know that I've done my best for my daughter." And, you know, I'm going to go and meet the Buddhas at Buddha on Eagle Peak. That's where they say in our practice, the Buddhas meet. And if that is where I'm going to be, that's where I'm going to be. And I just went in and I came out. And then 5 hours later, I came out. And I came out of, and I remember waking up.
I'm still here.
I'm still here. And I called my daughter. I said, "I'm back." And she was like, "What are you doing? The doctors just told me you just got it.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah, why are you calling me?" And I said, "Well, I have to, I took you in with me, and you're the first thing the last thing I thought of when I went in, and your first thing I'm thinking about when I come out. I want you to know I'm here." And they told me I had four blood transfusions. I lost a lot of blood. It was a massive, and it was incredible. And then shortly after, my legs began to move, and they were surprised. And I now learned that I'm the one in the 1% to walk again, rare 1%, because it said that with this type of surgery, you don't move that quickly. And so they rushed me to rehab. So I spent 2 weeks in rehab, and I kept calling my daughter and telling her, "I'm going to be back home on Friday. I'm going to be home. I'm going to be home on Monday." And it kept going and going. And and I just stayed in rehab for a couple of weeks.
Wow. That's amazing. And yeah, the thought that came to my mind. So I was wondering about how your care was, which is so beautiful, that you were so well taken care of.
Yeah.
That, that thought that you had that, all of those negative thoughts about how hard this is all going to be, all whoosh.
Yes, because they're not, when you get into the hospitals, they're about doing their job. They're efficient. They were efficient. They took care of me. Everything, the food, the nurses, the doctors, the teams, they were just wonderful. Beautiful. And I had a multicultural team.
Fantastic.
My doctors were white, they were Asian, they were Black, and I was like, oh, wow, the thing I worried about, look, I spent all this time worrying about that, and I could have, so it's just, you just have to not let things like that hold you back when it comes to your health.
Yeah. And it's like, know that the stories that you're making up in your head are not necessarily actually true. Like, you're making them up.
That's right. Your fear. I told you.
Out of fear. Absolutely.
I was living on this umbrella. I carried fear, those, crazies with
your old buddy fear that you'd brought with you since you were a kid.
Yes, since I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think the other, big gift of your story is, this was not just one thing that happened. Like, you've had multiple things that now, you know, tell me what it feels like to look back and say, that's behind me.
I cannot even describe it. The way I look today, if you look at my pictures as I was going through that, and then look at how I look today every day.
Look at you now.
I know. And today I just had my a checkup from my I had a virtual checkup, and they said I'd lost 40 pounds. I was 200 pounds last year. And
everything had just accumulated in your system and in your body because you weren't well, more than just the mass, but the rest of you too, right?
Right. Well, what I learned, especially through listening to Louise here, this stuff is not just, it's all the stuff that I'd accumulated over the years, from the trauma, the intergenerational traumas that I carried with me from, you know, passed down from family and general. I had this burden on my back that I was carrying.
The weight that you carried.
Yes. And so it was, all these things went with the cancer. Yes. And now I don't have that umbrella of self-sabotage, because one thing that I did when I was in hospital, I promised myself that I would come share my story. I always wanted to be a speaker, but I was so afraid and would sabotage myself out of it the whole time. And I promised myself on the hospital bed that I visualized seeing myself on stage speaking to women about this. And I promised myself that I was going to come and speak to women and share this story. And I'm here as promised. I visualized it and made it happen.
It makes me so, this is not the first time that you've shared your story publicly?
No, I've shared it, but I had opportunities. And
I just wanted to make sure, because I was going to say, well, that would be amazing if today was the day, but good. I'm glad that you've shared with other audiences.
Yeah, but I've wanted to be I've always wanted to be a speaker, but I would get any opportunity would come, I would run from it, because I had an opportunity before I dropped out of school at 15. I was on stage and I got booed off stage. And every time I would get on the stage, sometimes that would hamper me. And that was self-sabotage.
Sure, you carried that one with you too, all along with all the rest of your traumatic buddies.
That's right.
Oh, my friend, I feel so honored to get to learn your story today and hear from you today and be a part of you continuing to share your story.
Yes. New life.
Your new life. I'm so grateful to have had this time with you today. I know that, you know, there's other opportunities here in the Voices of Women Summit. I'm just going to talk about this for 1 second, and then I'm going to come back to you for final thoughts. You know, we have 300 speakers here in this summit today, which is just amazing. Track after track after track. And, you know, it's almost 5 p.m. Pacific. We've been going since 7:30 a.m. Pacific today, and it's not over yet. If you're still up for more amazing stories, be sure to stick around, because our next speaker here in track 4 is Julianne Gumlock Smith, and she's going to be talking about 3 techniques to shift your mindset around money. Whole different, but still the same, right? We're talking about the power of our thought. So let's keep that going and now talk about how we can affect our mindset around money. So Julianne's going to be here. If you're not already registered for her talk, be sure to click on that link. And if you want the recordings and the VIP gifts that some of our speakers have offered, and again, with 300 speakers, that's going to be a lot of things. Be sure to upgrade to VIP before, you know, it gets too late, because you're not going to want to forget. And the link is right there in the chat, so make sure to grab that. Now, Claire, before we go, I really would love to ask you one last final thought. Like, what should we grab onto as a final statement from you that we can take with us as we leave today?
Well, through it all, I learned that you should not get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, because that's what I was doing. I was like letting life get ahead of me and not taking the preventative measures. Although I know that something was going on inside, I didn't care about myself. I didn't love myself enough to really
find out,
trust what was happening. And so I would say that get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. And I would say, I wrote a quote down here from Louise Hay, and she says, love yourself and get your act together. I am loving myself and getting my act together every single moment, every single day. And that's what I want to leave that message with everybody. Love yourself and get your act together.
I love that.
It's a difficult thing, but it can be done.
And we need to, because we're worth it and the world is waiting.
That's right.
I love it. Claire, thank you so much for your time and your story today. I so appreciate you, and I'm so grateful to have been here with you today. Thanks, everyone. I hope to see you in the next talk here at the Voices of Women Summit. Cheers.